The world was on edge. It had been days since the broadcast started, but the faces of people around the globe still showed the same shock, disbelief, and sadness. Commander Jack Walker, the hero of Earth, was dead. It had happened so quickly. No one had expected it. Jack had been the one humanity trusted, the man who fought back against the Galactic Empire for years, the one person who stood up to the most powerful military force in the galaxy and made them bleed. But now, in an instant, it was all over. The broadcast was still fresh in every mind. People could still hear Varric's voice, cold, filled with victory, and cruel. "We have killed your hero, your best, and we will destroy your world next. This is the fate of all who defy the Galactic Empire." The transmission had ended with a final image of Jack Walker, the symbol of hope, lying motionless on the ground. He had fought to the very end, but the Empire's new weapon had proved too much for even him. On Earth, it felt like the air had been sucked out of every room. The government, the military, and ordinary citizens were all stunned. Some were crying, others were silent, and some even refused to believe it. But deep inside, everyone felt it, the weight of this loss. The news spreads. At a high-tech command center in the heart of the United States, the world's leaders had gathered. It was an emergency session. As the news of Jack's death spread like wildfire, everyone knew that the status quo was about to change. President Harris stood in front of the large glowing map of Earth. Her eyes were narrowed, staring at the various flashing points representing Earth's remaining military outposts. She didn't need to say anything. Everyone in the room understood. The Empire had struck. They had taken the life of humanity's greatest defender. General Pierce, one of the top military strategists, slammed his fist on the table. This was no accident. They wanted us to see this. They wanted to break us, to make us fear them. But they've made a terrible mistake. The president turned slowly to face him. "What do you mean?" "They've underestimated us. You've seen it. The strength, the courage we have as humans, that no alien race can match. Jack may be gone, but his death isn't the end. It's just the beginning. Now we fight back, all of us together." The room was silent. No one spoke. Everyone could feel it. The anger, the determination. Jack may have died, but something had sparked inside humanity that day. The death of one man, their hero, had ignited the fire of 1,000 soldiers, 1,000,000 citizens, 1,000,000,000 hearts. They would not let Jack's death be in vain. The seed of revenge. Across the world, the reaction was the same. People gathered in public squares, in front of televisions, and on the streets. Some were angry, some were terrified, but all were united by one thought: Earth would not fall, not without a fight. In Russia, soldiers who had once been ordinary civilians started to don their military gear, determined to defend their homeland. In China, scientists worked around the clock to develop new weapons that could rival the Empire's technology. Even in the streets of Europe, there were protests demanding action. "We will avenge Jack Walker," they chanted, their voices rising into the cold air. Across every nation, there was a growing sense of unity. Earth had never been more united, more focused. The Galactic Empire had taken a wrong turn, and now humanity was about to show them the consequences of underestimating Earth, a plan in motion. In a dark underground bunker, Earth's greatest minds were already at work. They knew their new plan had to be something the Empire could never anticipate. They couldn't simply rely on conventional weapons. They needed something far more powerful, something to strike fear into the heart of the Galactic Empire. Dr. Elena Solis, a brilliant scientist and one of Earth's leading experts in alien technology, stood in front of a massive whiteboard filled with complex equations. Beside her, a holographic projection displayed blueprints for a new weapon. It was unlike anything the Empire had seen before. "This is it," Dr. Solis said, her voice low but confident. "This is the weapon that will send our message to the Empire. We will take them down, not with force alone, but with something they can't understand. This is the weapon that will turn the tide. The room fell silent as they all stared at the plans. If this weapon worked, it would be their greatest hope. If it didn't, humanity might be wiped out before they ever had a chance to fight back. The message spreads. Back on Earth's surface, the news channels began to broadcast a new message to the galaxy. It was a message written with rage, sorrow, and hope. It was a message of warning. Humanity wasn't done. The broadcast began with images of Jack Walker, his body lying lifeless in front of the camera. It was a painful reminder of what the Galactic Empire had done. But the message that followed was clear. We are Earth. We are humans. You killed one of us, but we are far more than just one hero. You have made a mistake. Galactic Empire, you have crossed a line. We are not like any species you have ever encountered. You will soon understand the power of humanity. Prepare yourselves. The words echoed across the galaxy, carried on every broadcast signal, and across every interstellar communication channel. The Galactic Empire would hear this. They would know that humanity had not fallen into despair. Instead, humanity had woken up, and Earth's anger would not be ignored. The death of Commander Jack Walker had shaken the world, but it had also awakened something far more dangerous, the collective strength and will of humanity. What began as mourning quickly turned into something much fiercer, a burning desire for revenge. But Earth had no time to grieve. There was a plan in motion, and every moment counted. Earth's leaders assemble. At the United Nations, the leaders of the world had convened in an emergency meeting, and the atmosphere in the room was thick with tension. The death of Walker had united them, but it had also left them with a hard decision. What next? President Harris stood at the head of the table, her face drawn and tired, but her voice steady and filled with resolve. We have one choice now: to fight back, to make sure the death of our hero means something. But we cannot win this fight with old weapons or old tactics. The Empire is too powerful. We must evolve, adapt, if we are going to make them regret this mistake. General Pierce, who had spent decades studying the Galactic Empire's methods, nodded in agreement. Their strength lies in their technology, their military might. But humanity has something they don't: creativity. We've been underestimated for too long. Now we show them what we're capable of. The president looked out at the leaders gathered around the table, her eyes meeting each of theirs. Our hero's death was not in vain. It's our time to rise. But we need a weapon powerful enough to strike fear into the Empire. If we can do that, we may have a chance. The room was silent as the weight of her words settled in. It wasn't just about defeating the Empire. It was about sending a message, a warning that Earth was no longer a planet to be dismissed. Gathering the best minds. Far from the political centers of Earth, in a secret underground lab, the world's brightest scientists, engineers, and strategists were working day and night. Their goal: create a weapon that could challenge the might of the Galactic Empire. The stakes were high. Failure meant not only the end of Earth's fight for survival, but also the extinction of humanity itself. Dr. Elena Solis, a top scientist in quantum physics, was one of the first to understand the full scope of the task ahead. She stood in front of a giant screen, her eyes scanning the information flashing before her. We need to think beyond what the Empire expects. We can't just match their technology. We have to surpass it. One of her colleagues, Professor Samuel Lee, who specialized in energy manipulation, stepped forward. We've been studying their weapons for years. They rely heavily on energy-based technology. If we can tap into their energy sources, amplify them, we might have a fighting chance. A nervous excitement spread through the room. This was the breakthrough they had been waiting for. They were no longer reacting to the Empire's power. They were going to take the fight to them. The weapon's first test. In the deep, secretive corridors of the Earth Defense Command, the first test of the new weapon was about to begin. It was a weapon unlike anything humanity had ever seen before, a hybrid of advanced energy manipulation and quantum technology. The design was kept in the strictest confidence. Even the highest-ranking officials had only been given partial details. The first test was conducted in a remote part of the world, far from any population center, to avoid any potential catastrophe. Earth's new weapon was designed to harness vast amounts of energy, condensing it into a single concentrated blast. The team was nervous. This was uncharted territory. If it worked, humanity would have a fighting chance. If it didn't, well, they couldn't afford to think that way. A countdown began, and the whole room held its breath. As the final numbers ticked down, the air seemed to crackle with anticipation. Then, with a sudden burst of light, the weapon activated. The energy blast shot up into the sky, brighter than anything anyone had ever seen. It punched through the clouds, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. For a moment, the entire world seemed to pause as the energy burst collided with a specially prepared target in the distance. The result was nothing short of catastrophic. The target, a massive structure designed to simulate the fortifications of an empire planet, was vaporized in an instant. The shockwave from the explosion rattled the air miles away, and the data sensors recorded the most powerful energy release ever created by humans. The team erupted into cheers. It worked. The weapon was real, and it was powerful. The message is sent. As the test completed, Dr. Solis knew they were ready, but they had to send a message to the Galactic Empire. They needed to make sure the Empire knew this wasn't just some show of force. This was a warning, a promise that humanity would not be silenced. The broadcast was prepared quickly. It was a message that would echo across the stars, reaching the very heart of the Empire. On every screen, in every home, a new transmission began. A single, calm voice spoke over images of the weapon's test and the destruction it caused. The death of Commander Jack Walker was not the end of us. It is the beginning. We have shown you our strength. Now we show you our resolve. You have made a mistake, Galactic Empire. Earth is no longer your prey. We will not bend. We will not break. Prepare for what comes next. The message finished with a chilling image of the Earth's new weapon, now aimed directly at the heart of the Empire's nearest colony. It wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. The Empire reacts. On a massive warship above the Empire's capital, Emperor Varak watched the broadcast with cold, calculating eyes. His lips curled into a sneer as the message ended. "So they think they can challenge us," he muttered. "How amusing." He turned to his generals, his voice filled with disdain. "Prepare the fleet. We will show these insignificant insects the true meaning of power. They may have a new weapon, but they don't have what it takes to stand against us." The fleet was mobilized. The Empire's might would descend upon Earth with a force that no one could withstand. They would make an example out of humanity, of any species that dared to defy them. But as the Empire's ships began their journey toward Earth, there was something else in the air. A sense of urgency, a realization that the stakes had never been higher. The message had been sent, and the eyes of the galaxy were now on Earth. The Galactic Empire was in rage. The death of Commander Jack Walker had only served to ignite a fire that the Empire hadn't expected, and now it was their turn to respond. But as the Empire's fleet moved toward Earth, something strange began to happen. The Empire's military might, which had seemed unbeatable, now faced a foe unlike any they had ever encountered. The Empire prepares for battle. Emperor Varak sat in the Grand Command Center of the flagship of the Imperial fleet, the Dreadnought. His eyes glowed with a chilling coldness, but inside, something else stirred. Was he truly underestimating humanity? Did their new weapon change the balance of power? "Ready the fleet," he commanded, his voice low but filled with authority. "We will crush them. They think their new weapon can threaten us. Let them believe it. We will show them why they should never have defied the Empire." The fleet was massive. Dozens of battle cruisers, thousands of fighters, and a powerful dreadnought, all armed with enough firepower to annihilate entire planets. But Varak couldn't shake the feeling that humanity was something different. They weren't like the species they had conquered before. They were resilient, unpredictable, and somehow dangerous. He turned to his most trusted general, General Turkin, a seasoned strategist who had conquered dozens of worlds. "General, will their weapon be a threat?" he asked, narrowing his eyes. Turkin's expression remained stoic. "They've shown us their power, yes, but they don't have the capability to sustain it. This weapon, whatever it is, will have its limits. And once we destroy it, they'll fall back into their place, like every other species we've destroyed before." Verak nodded slowly, but in the back of his mind, doubt lingered. He had learned the hard way not to underestimate his enemies, and humanity had just proven they could still surprise him. The calm before the storm. On Earth, the days leading up to the Empire's attack felt like an endless waiting game. Across the planet, military forces prepared for the worst. Cities began fortifying themselves, and military personnel were on high alert. There was no telling when the Empire would strike, but the world was ready. Dr. Elena Solis stood in the control room of the underground facility, watching as her team ran the final tests on the new weapon. There was no turning back now. She had worked tirelessly for months to perfect the technology, but even she knew the real challenge was yet to come: facing the Empire in battle. "The Empire is coming," she said, her voice steady but full of tension. "We have one shot at this. We have to make sure our weapon is ready when they arrive." "We will be ready," replied Captain Marcus, who had been assigned to oversee the weapon's deployment. "The fleet is prepared. We've got our forces standing by. They may have their size, but we have our resolve." Dr. Solis nodded. Humanity's strength wasn't in its numbers. It wasn't in the size of their weapons or the ships they could deploy. It was in their will to fight, in the sheer determination that had always driven them to survive. She had seen it in the eyes of every soldier, every scientist, every civilian. Earth was united, and nothing would stand in their way. The first sign that the Empire had arrived came with a flash in the sky. An explosion of light from space, massive ships entering Earth's atmosphere. The ships were so large, they blocked out the stars, and with them came the deafening hum of their weapons systems powering up. The battle had begun. On Earth, military forces scrambled into position. The skies were filled with the whine of fighter jets, ready to take the fight to space. But they knew it would be a losing battle if they didn't deploy the new weapon. The Empire's fleet was far superior in firepower. Earth's only hope was the weapon Dr. Solis had helped create. As the Empire's ships approached Earth, they were met with resistance. Fighter jets launched, firing upon the fleet, but their efforts were little more than a nuisance to the Empire's defenses. The Galactic Empire had superior technology, but humanity wasn't backing down. In the skies above Earth, a fierce battle raged. Captain Marcus, piloting one of Earth's most advanced fighter jets, sent a message back to headquarters. "We're holding them off, but it's only a matter of time before they overpower us. Where is the weapon?" Dr. Solis was monitoring the situation from below. "The weapon is ready. We're activating it now." The moment of truth. In the underground facility, the air hummed with energy as the final preparations were made to deploy the weapon. It was unlike anything the Empire had seen before. Humanity's new weapon wasn't just a tool of destruction. It was a symbol of their resilience. And as it powered up, the ground trembled beneath them. Dr. Solis looked at the large screen in front of her, which displayed a hologram of the galactic fleet in orbit. The weapon, a massive satellite array equipped with the energy amplification technology, was aligned. Now, it was time to unleash Earth's final trump card. "Activate it," Dr. Solis ordered. The command was given, and the weapon hummed to life. Energy began to build in the core of the array, and within seconds, a massive beam of concentrated energy shot toward the Empire's fleet. The beam ripped through space like a beam of light, cutting through the enemy ships with terrifying precision. The first ship to be struck, a large cruiser, disintegrated in an instant. Then another, and another. The Empire's fleet was falling apart, ship after ship, as the beam tore through their defenses. The power of the weapon was beyond anything the Empire had anticipated. They had underestimated humanity's ingenuity, and now they were paying the price. The Empire's retreat. In the command center of the Imperial fleet, Emperor Varric's calm demeanor evaporated as he watched his fleet crumble before him. His eyes widened in disbelief as the once invincible ships were torn apart by the power of Earth's weapon. "Pull back," he barked, panic creeping into his voice. "All ships, retreat. We've underestimated them. This is not a battle we can win." But it was too late. The damage had been done. The fleet was in disarray. The weapon had not only destroyed their ships, it had shattered their sense of invincibility. The Galactic Empire's retreat began, but it was not a victory yet. Earth had only struck a blow. The war was far from over. The brief victory over the Galactic Empire's first wave was a fleeting moment of hope. The enemy's retreat only made the tension more unbearable, for it was clear the war was far from over. Earth's weapon had proven its power, but as the days passed, it became evident that the Empire would not go down so easily. They had tasted defeat, and they would not forget it. Now, the real test was coming. The Empire regroups. The remnants of the Imperial fleet limped back into deep space, damaged but not destroyed. On the bridge of the dreadnought, Emperor Varric stood in silence, watching the retreating ships on the holoscreen. His once unshakable confidence was gone, replaced by the cold realization that humanity was no longer an insignificant speck in the galaxy. The humans' new weapon was a game-changer, and the Empire had underestimated them terribly. "We will return to finish this," Varric growled, his voice filled with anger. "Prepare the full fleet. I want every ship, every soldier, and every weapon we have. Earth will pay for this insult." General Torkin, standing by his side, had no words of reassurance this time. "Yes, Emperor, it seems we've underestimated them, but this was merely the beginning. The weapon they used is powerful, but if we deploy the right forces, we can overwhelm them." Varric's gaze flickered with doubt, but he nodded. "Make sure it's the end of them. No more mistakes. Earth's defenses strengthen." Back on Earth, humanity's leaders knew the Empire wouldn't stay down forever. The brief moment of triumph had reinvigorated the people, but there was no illusion about the difficulty of what lay ahead. Earth's military forces worked around the clock, strengthening defenses, preparing for a fight that might be the most dangerous humanity had ever faced. Dr. Solis stood in the heart of Earth's Defense Command Center, her face drawn with exhaustion but her eyes focused. The weapon had worked, but now the real challenge was adapting to the new tactics the Empire would employ. The enemy would be back, and they would come prepared. "We need to do more," she said to her team. "We've seen what their ships can do. Our weapon is powerful, but they won't underestimate us again. We have to make sure that when they come, we're ready." The team worked tirelessly to modify the weapon, to improve the technology and ensure that it would be even more devastating if necessary. The idea of fighting back was no longer a distant hope. It was their only option. The calm before the final storm. Weeks passed with no sign of the Empire. Earth's defense forces stayed on high alert, constantly monitoring space for any signs of Imperial ships. Cities were fortified, military patrols were increased, and everyone knew that the next strike would be the one that determined Earth's fate. Dr. Solis found herself in a quiet moment, alone in her office, reviewing the plans for the new enhancements to the weapon. Her thoughts wandered to the day when humanity had been considered weak, insignificant. Now they had something no one else had expected, a weapon capable of shaking the foundations of the Empire itself. But even as she worked, a nagging thought lingered in her mind. Were they truly ready? The Empire was vast, and their resources were practically limitless. The Galactic Empire might have retreated, but they had not been defeated. The calm before the storm felt almost unbearable. There was no telling when the next battle would begin. Would Earth's weapon be enough to stop the full might of the Empire, Or would it only serve to make the Empire's vengeance that much more deadly? The Empire returns with a vengeance. Without warning, the silence of space shattered. The first sign that the Galactic Empire had returned was the ominous shadow of their massive fleet looming in the distance. Hundreds of ships filled the sky, a terrifying armada that eclipsed the stars. The Empire had come in full force, determined to erase the stain of their previous defeat. This time, they would not pull back. They would annihilate Earth once and for all. On Earth, the alarm bells rang. The world's defenses went into high gear, military jets took to the skies, and soldiers scrambled into position. The tension that had been building for weeks exploded into action. "We knew they would come," General Pierce said, his voice firm but tense. "This is it. We can't afford to let them overwhelm us." Dr. Solis was already in motion. "We've made the improvements. The weapon's power has increased tenfold. We can hold them off." The first strike. The first wave of the Empire's ships reached Earth's atmosphere. Earth's military forces met them head-on, engaging in a battle that shook the skies. Fighter jets, missiles, and energy blasts filled the air as humanity fought to defend itself against a relentless barrage. But this was different. The Empire's fleet had learned from their previous defeat. Their tactics were more coordinated, their defenses stronger. Earth's forces fought valiantly, but they were outnumbered, and they were struggling to hold their ground. As the battle raged, Dr. Solis watched from the command center. She knew the Empire's ships were advancing toward Earth's capital, and they would stop at nothing to break through the defenses. "Activate the weapon," she ordered, her voice unshakable. The final weapon unleashed. The new weapon, now enhanced beyond anything humanity had imagined, powered up. A massive beam of energy shot out from the satellite array, the most concentrated burst of power Earth had ever seen. The beam streaked through space, tearing apart the closest Imperial ships in an instant. The weapon's new capabilities had amplified its power to an extraordinary level. But the Empire was not deterred. They had prepared for this, and as the Earth's weapon began to recharge, the Empire retaliated with a fury unmatched in the galaxy. The stakes had never been higher. Earth had proven it could strike fear into the Empire, but now, the full force of the Imperial fleet was descending upon them. Would humanity's resolve be enough to withstand the Empire's wrath? Or was this the beginning of the end? The Empire had returned with an unimaginable force, and Earth had no choice but to face them head-on. The first wave of battle had shown humanity's strength, but now, the real fight for survival began. Earth's weapon had been their greatest hope, but even it was starting to show its limitations. As the Imperial fleet continued its assault, both sides knew this was the defining moment. The Empire's full force. The massive Imperial fleet hovered just beyond Earth's atmosphere. The stars around them flickered as the ship's engines powered up, their immense firepower poised to deliver the final blow. The fleet was more than just a show of strength. It was a message. The Empire had learned from its previous mistakes, and now it was ready to take the galaxy's most defiant world down. Emperor Varak watched from the command center of the dreadnought, his eyes filled with an icy rage. His fleet had been humiliated once already, and he would not let that happen again. "This ends today," he muttered, his voice low and filled with venom. "No more mistakes. We will annihilate Earth and show the galaxy that no one defies the Galactic Empire." General Torkin stood beside him, watching as their ships locked into formation, their weapons primed. The humans are tough, but they are out of options. Their weapon has already been used. "Now, we finish this." Varak nodded. "Deploy the fighters. We will destroy their defenses and take Earth. This will be the end. Earth's last stand." Back on Earth, the world was preparing for its final stand. The streets were filled with soldiers, civilians, and defense forces all rallying together. The fear of the Empire's return had settled into everyone's hearts, but so had the resolve. This was no longer about survival. It was about proving to the galaxy that humanity was not to be underestimated. Dr. Solis and Captain Marcus stood in the control room, watching as the Imperial fleet advanced. The planet was under threat, and the fate of every living human being rested on their shoulders. The dust had settled. The ground shook, the sky had cleared, and the once mighty empire had been driven back into the depths of space. Earth had won, but the cost was high. The planet was scared by the battle, and its people were left with the weight of their victory on their shoulders. The Galactic Empire had been repelled, but what lay ahead for humanity? The war might be over, but the galaxy would never be the same again. A shattered empire. The remnants of the Empire's fleet limped away from Earth's atmosphere, their pride shattered. The Dreadnought, the flagship of the Imperial Armada, was nothing more than a broken, drifting hulk. Other ships followed in retreat, leaving behind a trail of destruction and debris in their wake. On the Imperial command ship, Emperor Varek stood motionless, staring out into space. His once unstoppable empire was crumbling before his eyes. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. "We will rebuild," he muttered, though there was no conviction in his words. "But we must learn from this. Humanity has shown us their true power. This defeat will not be the end of the Empire, but it will take time. Time to regroup, time to plan." General Turkin, standing beside the Emperor, shared the same grim outlook. "We were caught off guard. Earth has proven to be more than just a threat. We now know it is a force that can challenge the very foundation of the Empire. And we will crush them," Varek said, his voice cold with anger. "But first, we must rest. We must heal. Only then will we come back stronger." Earth's reflection and reconstruction. Back on Earth, there was no time for celebration. The victory over the Galactic Empire was hard won, but the planet had paid a heavy price. Cities lay in ruins, and the world's people were exhausted from the strain of the war. Yet there was a sense of pride among them, a realization that they had achieved something impossible. Dr. Solis stood on the balcony of the command center, overlooking the city as it began the slow process of recovery. The weapon had done its job, but it had also shown humanity something far more valuable than its destructive power. It had revealed humanity's incredible resilience. "We did it," she whispered, though the exhaustion in her voice was evident. But at what cost? Beside her, Captain Marcus stood silently, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "We've won, but now comes the hardest part. Rebuilding. Not just our cities, but our place in the galaxy. The Empire will be back. They have to be." Dr. Solis nodded, her mind already turning to the next challenge. "We've proven that we can defend ourselves, but the rest of the galaxy knows we're here now. We won't just be left alone. There will be other threats, and we'll have to be ready." Humanity's new path. As the weeks passed, Earth's leaders worked to rebuild. Cities that had been shattered by the Empire's assault were slowly coming back to life. The scars of war would remain for a long time, but the people of Earth had faced the impossible and survived. The military, though still recovering, began strengthening its ranks. Scientists and engineers worked alongside governments to enhance the weapon that had given Earth its edge, ensuring that humanity's defenses would be stronger than ever. But even with these advancements, the fear of the future loomed large. What if the Empire returned? What if another, more powerful enemy came to take Earth's place? "Do we have enough time to prepare?" asked General Pierce, standing with Dr. Solis in the newly established Earth Defense Command. Dr. Solis looked at the blueprints for the next generation of Earth's weapon. "We can't afford to wait for the next threat to arrive. We need to be ready now. The Empire might be gone for now, but we have no guarantee they won't return." "It's not just the Empire," General Pierce replied. "There are many forces out there who will want to test Earth now. We've just proven that we're capable of great destruction, but we have to ask, how do we defend our place in the universe?" "We'll figure it out," Dr. Solis said, determination in her voice. "We've learned that we're capable of more than anyone thought possible. We'll rise above it all." The Galactic Watch. As Earth's leaders debated their future, Far across the galaxy, a different kind of council was convening. The Galactic Senate, the governing body that controlled much of the galaxy's vast territories, had begun to take notice of the human victory. Whispers spread through the Senate chambers. Earth was no longer an obscure planet at the edge of the galaxy. Now, humanity had proven that it could stand up to the most powerful empire in existence. "The humans have shown their strength," one senator said, her voice filled with concern. "This cannot be allowed to go unchecked. If the empire could fall to them, who else might fall next?" "This is it," Captain Marcus said, his voice grim. "The weapon's ready, but can we do enough with it?" "We can," Dr. Solis replied firmly, her hands clenched into fists. "We've prepared. Humanity's strength isn't in our weapons alone. It's in our will to survive. We've faced the impossible before, and we'll do it again. Then let's make sure they never forget Earth." The first strike. The first shot came from the Empire's fleet, a massive energy blast that rocked the Earth's atmosphere. It was so powerful that it sent shockwaves across the planet, toppling buildings and shaking the ground beneath them. Fighter jets scrambled into the air, but they were no match for the sheer power of the Imperial ships. On Earth, the skies were a war zone, filled with the noise of battles and explosions as humanity fought to hold their ground. The Empire's fleet advanced, destroying everything in their path. But Earth's forces weren't backing down. Despite being outgunned and outnumbered, they continued to fight with a ferocity that surprised even the Empire. At the control center, Dr. Solis stood tall, her eyes fixed on the holographic map that displayed the positions of the Empire's fleet. "We need to launch the full power of the weapon," she said, her voice unwavering. "We can't hold them off forever." Earth's weapon powers up. The massive satellite array that had given Earth its first victory was now humanity's last hope. The weapon, now enhanced with more energy than ever before, began to charge. As the energy built, the ground shook, and the atmosphere crackled with anticipation. This was it, the final strike. "Firing sequence initiated," Dr. Solis said, her heart pounding in her chest. Captain Marcus stood by her side, staring at the screen. "Make it count." With a flick of a switch, the weapon fired. A beam of energy so intense, it illuminated the sky, shot out of the array, streaking across space toward the Empire's fleet. It was a weapon of pure destruction, amplified and refined to take down the Empire's strongest ships. The beam collided with the nearest Imperial cruiser, and within seconds, it was reduced to rubble. But the battle was far from over. The Empire's retaliation was swift and brutal. The Empire strikes back. The Empire had not been caught off guard this time. Their shields held strong against the weapon's first blast, and within moments, they retaliated with an unrelenting barrage of laser fire, aimed directly at Earth's weapon. The shockwaves from the blast ripped across the planet, knocking out power grids, sending soldiers flying, and shaking cities to their core. But Earth was not defeated. The weapon fired again, and this time, the beam cut deeper, tearing through the Empire's defenses. Ships began to fall from the sky, one by one. The Empire's fleet was weakening, but they were not done yet. "We're running out of time," Dr. Solis said, her voice tight with tension. "We need to destroy their flagship. If we don't, the Empire will come back stronger than ever." The final assault. The Empire's flagship, the Dreadnought, was the last line of defense. If humanity was to have any chance of winning this battle, they had to destroy it. The weapon's full power had been drained, but there was still a chance, a final shot that might make the difference. "We're out of options," Captain Marcus said. "We'll have to do this manually." Dr. Solis looked at him. "Do it." The remaining Earth fighters, knowing this would be their final push, launched toward the Dreadnought. They darted through the firestorm, narrowly avoiding enemy blasts. The pressure was unbearable, but they fought on, determined to strike the final blow. With one final explosion, a fighter jet carrying a massive energy charge made contact with the Dreadnought. The resulting blast was enough to cripple the ship, sending it spiraling into deep space. The Empire's fleet, leaderless and broken, began to retreat. Earth had won. The aftermath. The battle was over, but the cost was unimaginable. Entire cities had been destroyed. Soldiers and civilians alike had fallen. But in the end, Earth had stood its ground against the most powerful empire the galaxy had ever known. As the dust settled, humanity stood victorious. But the war had taken its toll, and the scars would last for generations. Earth had proven that it would never back down. The Galactic Empire had learned the hard way that humans were not to be underestimated. Dr. Solus watched as the final remnants of the Empire's fleet vanished into the void. Earth had prevailed, but she knew one thing for sure: this was not the end of their story. The galaxy had just learned to fear humanity. A male senator spoke up, his voice sharp. We cannot ignore them. But we also cannot let them believe they can simply defy the balance of power. If the Empire is retreating, then the galaxy must ensure that Earth does not become a threat to the established order. A silent agreement passed between the senators. The galaxy had been shaken, and the humans had made it clear that they were not to be underestimated. The Galactic Senate knew that they had to either contain Earth's rise or risk losing their hold on the galaxy. A new beginning for humanity. While the Galactic Senate plotted their next moves, Earth continued to rebuild. The war had ended, but a new chapter in humanity's history was just beginning. The humans had tasted victory, but they also knew that the galaxy was vast, and they had made powerful enemies. Now, the real challenge was to maintain their hard-won peace. Dr. Solus and Captain Marcus stood before a gathering of world leaders, each of them representing the future of Earth. This is a new age for humanity, Dr. Solus said, her voice steady and resolute. We've proven our strength, but we must be careful. The galaxy is full of dangers we cannot even imagine yet. We will face challenges, and we will face enemies. But we will meet them with the same courage and determination that brought us to this moment. Her words echoed through the room as Earth's leaders vowed to unite, to prepare for whatever came next. They had proven that Earth could not be ignored, and from that moment on, they would stand tall, never to be underestimated again. The stars glittered in the vastness of space as the remnants of the Galactic Empire slowly licked their wounds. Though the defeat had been a bitter blow, it was far from the end. The Empire was far-reaching, and its power stretched across galaxies. The time would come for them to regroup, rebuild, and return, stronger than before. But this time, Earth would not be caught off guard. The Empire's reformation. Far from Earth's grasp, the shattered remnants of the Galactic Empire were in turmoil. Emperor Verac, though defeated, had not forgotten the humiliation brought upon him by the humans. His enemies, both within and outside the Empire, had taken advantage of the Empire's moment of weakness. But for the Emperor, there was no time for internal strife or petty betrayals. His focus was singular: revenge. In the heart of the imperial capital, Verac stood in front of a massive holographic display, studying the map of the galaxy. It was vast and full of unknown dangers, but the humans had ignited something inside him. They had been the first to strike a blow against his empire. And for that, they would pay. We cannot allow this to stand. Verac growled, his voice filled with cold resolve. Earth has proven they are capable of defending themselves, but we have the advantage now. They may have won the battle, but the war is far from over. His council of generals and advisors nodded in agreement, their faces marked with grim determination. Rebuild the fleet, General Torkin said. Prepare for the final war. We must strike before Earth grows too strong. The Emperor's gaze hardened. No more mistakes. We will leave nothing to chance. This time, we will crush humanity completely. Earth prepares for the inevitable. Back on Earth, the leaders of the planet were on high alert. The war was over, but the victory felt hollow. While humanity had gained the galaxy's respect, the leaders knew better than anyone that peace was fleeting. The Empire's retreat had been a temporary setback. It was only a matter of time before they returned with a vengeance. Dr. Solus stood in the command center, staring out over the Earth's devastated landscape. Though the world was healing, the scars of the battle were still fresh. The people were rebuilding, but the cost had been immense. Still, there was a sense of unity, something that had never been seen before. Earth had been pushed to the brink, but humanity had come together to survive. "We've won this round," Captain Marcus said, standing next to Dr. Solus. "But we both know the Empire won't be gone forever. We have to prepare for the worst," Dr. Solus replied, her voice steady, though there was a hint of worry in her eyes. "The Empire will rebuild, and when they come back, they will be stronger. We can't afford to let our guard down." "Then we need to make sure we're stronger too," Marcus said. "It's not just about the weapon anymore. We need an army. We need a force that will make the Empire think twice before attacking again." Dr. Solus nodded, knowing full well that their time to prepare was limited. "We need to find a way to increase our power, our technology, our defenses, our unity. The next battle will be the real test. A galaxy watching and waiting." News of the battle's outcome had spread across the galaxy, and the aftermath was rippling through every corner of space. For the first time in galactic history, a small, seemingly insignificant world had stood up to the might of an empire and won. But the victory had not gone unnoticed. Other factions, other races, began to see Earth not as an isolated planet, but as a potential ally or threat. The galaxy was a dangerous place, full of shifting alliances, ancient enemies, and factions that would seek to take advantage of any weakness. While Earth focused on preparing for the inevitable return of the Empire, other powers were quietly making their moves. The Sicarians, a race of technologically advanced beings, had always been cautious of the Empire, but now, after the defeat of the Dreadnought, they saw an opportunity to align themselves with humanity. Their emissaries approached Earth with offers of technological assistance, weaponry, and knowledge that could potentially tip the balance of power in the galaxy. Meanwhile, the shadowy Valkyrie Syndicate, known for their ruthless mercenaries, had begun recruiting human soldiers and offering their services to whoever could pay the highest price. They saw the potential for profit in a galaxy where the Empire's control was now in question. The galaxy was on the verge of a new power struggle, and Earth was now a central player. What side would humanity choose in this galactic chess game? Only time would tell. Humanity's role in the galaxy. While Earth struggled to rebuild its defenses, a growing sense of responsibility weighed heavily on the people. The defeat of the Empire had changed everything. The world had proven its strength, but in doing so, it had attracted the attention of powerful forces, both good and bad. At the United Earth Defense Council, world leaders sat around a holographic table, discussing their future. There was a quiet tension in the room. The Empire was out there, waiting to strike again. But even worse, new enemies were starting to emerge: alien races, mercenary forces, and factions who saw humanity as either a tool to use or a threat to eliminate. "We've shown the galaxy that we are capable of defending ourselves," said Dr. Solus. "But we need to be ready for what's coming next. The Empire might be gone for now, but there are plenty of other threats out there. We need to unite the galaxy, or at least our allies. We can't do this alone." Captain Marcus stood up. The Empire was just the beginning. The galaxy's going to change, and humanity's going to have to make a choice. Do we want to hide in the shadows, or do we step up and take our place among the stars? The room fell silent. Every leader knew what was at stake. They had defeated the most powerful empire in the galaxy, but now they had to decide how to navigate the shifting tides of the future. The calm before the storm. For now, Earth stood victorious, but with the weight of the future on its shoulders. The galaxy watched as the humans rebuilt, knowing that the fragile peace could break at any moment. The Empire was down, but it was not out. And as the Earth prepared for what was to come, The true nature of their place in the galaxy had begun to take shape. In the distance, the stars seemed peaceful, calm. But beneath that stillness, the winds of war began to stir once more.